He was born on May 5th,
1818 in a family of lawyers in Trier, Rhine province, Kingdom of Prussia, German Confederation. His grandfather, Robin Levy, was a Jewish legal scholar. Jenny Marx, February 12, 1814, December 2nd, 1881, was born into a prominent family in Trier. Born Johanna Jenny Berta Juliet von Westphalen. He is a German sociologist and a proletarian and communist thinker. In September 1844, Engels visited Paris. The two began their research on scientific socialism side by side and formed a deep friendship. In 1845, Marx participated in the preparation of Forward Weekly. In it, there was a sharp criticism of German absolutism. The Prussian government was very dissatisfied with this and asked the French government to expel Marx. In the autumn of the same year, Marx was beaten by gangsters sent by the French government, deported and forced to come to Brussels, Belgium. On September 28, 1864, Marx attended the founding Congress of the First International and was elected to the leadership committee. He drafted the inaugural declaration, provisional statutes, and other important documents for the First International. On September 14, 1867, the first volume of Das Kapital was published. The latter two volumes were compiled by Engels after Marx's death and published in 1885 and 1894 respectively. In October 1870, Marx reunited with Engels, who had moved to London. Expelled from many countries and living in exile, he once called himself a citizen of the world. On December 2nd, 1881, Jenny fell into a deep sleep. This was a huge blow that Marx had never suffered. At noon on March 14th, 1883, Marx passed away peacefully. On March 17, 1883, Marx was buried next to Jenny's grave in Highgate Cemetery. Life is like an ocean. Only those with strong will can reach the other side. It is better to strive for the future than to regret the past. In a democratic country, the law is the king. In an autocratic country, the king is the law. Treat others how you want others to treat you. Physical labor is the great disinfectant against all social viruses. People create the environment, and the environment also creates people. Philosophers just explain the world in different ways. The problem is changing the world. The spirit of an era is the spirit represented by youth. The character of an era is the character represented by youth. Sow behavior and reap habits. Sow habits and reap character. Sow character and reap destiny. All savings ultimately boil down to time savings. Only those who bravely climb the rugged path can hope to reach the glorious summit. Foreign languages are a weapon in the struggle of life. I am a human being, and I feel close to anything that is human. The basis of morality is the self-discipline of the human spirit. Love can only be exchanged with love, and trust can only be exchanged with trust. There are no rights without duties, and there are no duties without rights. To learn to walk, a person must also learn to wrestle, and only through wrestling can he learn to walk. Only when he has complete freedom of will to act can he be fully responsible for his actions. Books are my slaves and should obey my will and be used by me. If the form is not the form of the content, then it has no value. Friendship always needs to be sown with piety, watered with enthusiasm, cultivated with principles, and cared for with consideration. Matter determines consciousness. One practical action is more important than a dozen programs. Violence is the midwife of every old society that is giving birth to a new society. Violence itself is an economic force. The economic base determines the superstructure. To this day, it is still one of the great discoveries in economics and thought. Great men look great only because we are kneeling. When capital comes into the world, it is covered in blood and filth from head to toe. An end achieved by unfair means is not a legitimate end. For every human victory over nature, there may be retaliation. Parallel to this, the exploitation of labor is the primary human right of capital. The production mode of material life restricts the process of social life, political life, and spiritual life. People who are stupid, vulgar, careless, and greedy for personal gain always see things that they think are at a disadvantage. The fact that human beings originated from the animal kingdom determines that they can never get rid of their bestiality. Commodity exchange is the exchange of a certain amount of one use value for a certain amount of another use value. For state organs, the law prohibits it without authorization. For the people, the law permits it unless it prohibits it. Human needs develop together with, and by means of the means to satisfy them. Truth is like sunshine, it is difficult to be humble. Laws are no more a measure to suppress freedom than the law of gravity is a measure to prevent motion. A marriage without love is an immoral marriage, and a marriage with only love is an unrealistic marriage. Human essence is not an abstraction inherent in a single person. In fact, it is the sum total of all social relations. A sincere and very sensible friendship is a priceless treasure in life. We know that individuals are weak, but we also know that the collective is powerful. All economies ultimately boil down to the time economy. Political power in the original sense is the organized violence used by one class to oppress another class. There is no smooth road in science. Only those who are not afraid of hard work and climb the steep mountain road can hope to reach the glorious peak. What is more sacred than the emotions contained in the hearts of parents? The hearts of parents are the most merciful judge, the most considerate friend, and the sun of love. Its flames shine and warm the intentions condensed deep in our hearts. I will never be satisfied at any time. The more I read, the more deeply I feel dissatisfied. The more I feel that my knowledge is poor, and science is infinitely mysterious. To live a happy life, only two people can be together, because half a ball cannot roll. So the important task of every adult is to find the half that matches him or her. Whether human thinking has objective truth is not a theoretical question, but a practical question. Freedom lies in changing the state from an organ that stands above society to an organ that is completely subordinate to this society. The real basis of private property is possession, which is a fact, an unexplainable fact, not a right. It is only because society has given legal provisions to actual possession that actual possession has the character of legal possession. If there is a 20% profit, capital will be ready to move. If there is a 50% profit, capital will take risks. If there is a 100% profit, capital will dare to risk hanging. If with a profit of 300%, capital dares to trample all laws in the world. Communism does not deprive anyone of the right to possess social products. It only deprives anyone of the right to use this possession to enslave the labor of others. In politics, for certain purposes, you can even form an alliance with the devil, but you must be sure that it is you who lead the devil and not the devil who leads you. Everything that exists, everything that lives on earth and in water, exists and lives only because of some kind of movement. Whether you can keep your word to your friends and always be a person worthy of them is the best test of your soul, character, psychology, and morality. In modern society, capital is independent and has its own character, while a living person is not independent and has no character. The religion of India is both a religion of indulgence and self-torture, asceticism, a religion of lingam worship, and a religion of Jagannath, a religion of monks, and a religion of dancing girls. Everyone has a goal in front of him, which is great in his own eyes at least. Philosophy is to the study of the real world as masturbation is to sex. What any capitalist mode of production has in common is that workers do not use labor tools, but labor tools use people. Man creates religion, not religion creates man. The worried poor cannot see the beauty of nature. Music is humans' second language. Supply and demand never actually coincide. If they do, it is by chance, and therefore scientifically equal to zero, and can be regarded as something that never happened. The structure of distribution is completely determined by the structure of production. Distribution itself is the product of production, not only in terms of objects. No one is against freedom, and if anyone is, it is at most against the freedom of others. It can be seen that various freedoms have always existed, but sometimes they are expressed as universal rights. Religion is the sigh of oppressed souls, the sentiment of a heartless world, just as it is the spirit of spiritless institutions. Religion is the opium of the people. Self-abasement is a poisonous snake that forever corrodes and gnaws at the soul. It sucks out the fresh blood of the soul and injects it with the poison of world-weariness and despair. Let the dead bury and weep over their own bodies. The fate of those who are the first to throw themselves into a new life with vigor and vitality is enviable. There are two leap processes in understanding. First, rational understanding can be achieved through perceptual practice, and only after rational understanding can guide perceptual practice. Neither the use value of a commodity nor its exchange value depends on the amount of labor expended in obtaining it. Virtue, the virtue peculiar to women, harms them. Their gentle and submissive asexuality becomes the means of enslavement and suffering. The ruling ideas of any era are always the ideas of the ruling class. Where there are no obligations, there are no rights. Human value is contained in human talents. Dialectics does not worship anything. By its very nature, it is critical and revolutionary. Everything people strive for is related to their interests. The weapon of criticism cannot replace the criticism of weapons. Material force can only be destroyed by material force. It is not consciousness that determines life, but life that determines consciousness. Marx defined capital as dead labor, which, like a vampire, can only live by sucking the labor of the living. The longer it lives, the more labor it has to suck. Friendship is as pure as the morning fog. Flattery cannot win it. Friendship can only be strengthened by loyalty. Time is the space for human development. Being ignorant and incompetent will never be of any help to anyone at any time, nor will it bring any benefit. Everything is difficult at the beginning, as is the case with every science. Without freedom of the press, all other freedoms are in vain. Are we asking others to grant us freedom of speech, just to eliminate freedom of speech in our own ranks? Censorship, like slavery, can never be legal, even if it has existed as law 1,000 times over. The free development of each person is the condition for the free development of all people. Religion is the lament of downtrodden creatures, and it is equivalent to the mood in a soulless state. It is the emotion of the heartless world, that is, the film of the people. Shame is already a revolution. Shame is an inward rage. If a nation were truly ashamed, it would be like a lion that is ready to spring forward, but shrinks back. Instead of decorating yourself with gorgeous clothes, it is better to arm yourself with knowledge. History does not recognize those who work for the public good and thus become noble as great. Experience has proven that those who can make the majority of people happy are also the happiest. Right, by its very nature, consists only in the use of the same measure. The level of labor productivity is directly proportional to the means of production driven by a certain amount of labor. Since plunder creates natural rights for the minority, the majority will have to gather enough strength to gain the natural right to regain everything that has been taken away from them. The judge is the king of the legal world, and there is no other superior except the law. A beautiful woman is actually a poet, able to tame her savage companions and sow the seeds of tenderness, hope, and eloquence in the hearts of those around her. The early combination of productive labor and education was one of the most powerful means of transforming modern society.